Coach, I know you harped on it after the game the other night about this team kind of losing the game in the first 10 minutes and getting down. I mean, I guess I'm kind of stating the obvious here, but how important is that for this team to get off to a good start with the lack of offense that we've seen so far this year?
Yeah, we've had some games where we've actually gotten off to a good start, and it certainly helps. I don't care what team you're coaching. I've always believed that it's more fun to play with the lead. It's kind of like in the academic world, what we preach is let's play with the lead academically. Let's not, try to come from behind. Certainly, you can win games in a variety of ways, but it's more comfortable and I think a little bit easier to, get off to a great start and establish yourselves and, get that confidence and maybe take away some of the other team's confidence, especially at home. But it's crucial for this team. When I watched the tape, we were down 16, obviously, and got back to even a couple times. We're able to overcome them and see what would happen if we got the lead. But I don't feel any different after watching the tape. We played good enough. Certainly had mistakes to win the game. If you could, match the execution and the intensity in the second half compared to the first half.
Go to Parrish, second row to coach's left.
Coach, what do you think is keeping you guys from closing out some of these games that you've had chances in here at the end?
That's a great question. I was just talking about that with a couple of my colleagues up there. That's a really good question, and I hate this answer, but it's true. If I knew the quick fix, I would have done it already. I'm not sure, why, and certainly that's my job to know that. We're deep diving, looking at everything that's offered to us from an analytical standpoint, from trying to get feedback from everyone on our staff and get their thoughts, like we always do on a lot of different subject matters. But I'm not used to that. I'm used to having a pretty tough-minded team and a team that is cohesive and together. I'm not saying we're not, but those are the things, the ingredients that are required to win down the stretch, to have that mental toughness, to have that confidence, to stick together and just make some timely shots and get some timely stops. And I know why you asked the question, because we've had a lot of games where we weren't able to do that in games that, came down the last few minutes of the game.
We'll keep it second row and go to Steph to coach's right.
Chris, obviously, you played Alabama already, but it seems like they've gotten even better since, they last played here. I think this past poll that just came out, they got a good amount of first place votes. So where have you seen them kind of make improvements, and what makes them, tougher to match up against the second time?
Well, it's remarkable of how good they are considering how young they are. In the age of the portal and everyone staying old, they certainly have some experienced guys, but some of their best players are new to college basketball, and it's very impressive with the transition that the staff has done with them to be productive right away. And I think that's probably has something to do with it, as those guys are getting experience and they're growing fast because of their youth. They certainly did a good job early, but when I watch them now, they don't look like freshmen anymore. They look experienced. They play with such confidence. They look to be a cohesive group from just the tape that you watch in terms of helping one another and being all in for their team and not worried about who's getting the headlines or the attention. And they play to who they are. I mean, they know who they are. They're very confident. They play fast. They're all about number of possessions. And they got a bunch of guys that are shooting the ball at a pretty good clip. And some of the guys that weren't earlier, guys that maybe you didn't have to guard on the three-point line, are now making threes, which makes it even more difficult to defend them. And they're playing different lineups. They're not playing just traditional lineups. They're playing some small ball lineups with five guys on the court that all can shoot the three, which is obviously a difficult matchup.
Go to Danny P, coach's left, second row.
Coach, Tolu's had a nice little run of double-doubles here of late. What has he been doing lately that maybe he wasn't doing the first 2 or 3 games of the SEC schedule?
Obviously, I love Tolu. I'm glad that he's with us. I love coaching him. He's just not being as efficient, in my opinion, as maybe he needs to be. You know, he's getting some double-doubles, and he's a rebounding monster. I mean, he's relentless on the backboards. He's one of the better rebounding offensive guys in the country, and certainly in our league, which there are a lot of other guys that rebound the ball at a high level. But, you know, guys, like every year, teams figure out how to play against certain guys. And I think that's going on a little bit with Tolu. And, you know, there's so much film out there now. And I know he was, you know, around last year as well. But, you know, he gets the ball and he gets every coverage you can imagine. Every coverage that you would think is a coach could, you know, apply against him. They're doing that with him, and it changes up game to game. Some games they'll see single coverage, some games it'll be, you know, underneath monster or trap, or sometimes it'll be old school dig, or, you know, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And, you know, he's such a great kid, and he's such a hard worker, and certainly the free throws that causes him not to be as efficient, you know, when he gets to the line. And it's a known fact that he struggled, and especially in SEC play, from the free throw line, and you know, gets in his head a little bit, and I think it affects, you know, him on both ends of the floor, and that's our job to try to, you know, make sure it doesn't.
We'll go back to Steph and Paul to coach's right.
A couple questions. First, just being, do you have any update on Sean? I know we didn't see him at the latter part of that game.
Yeah, he just turned his ankle. Again, like always, I usually have a routine on Mondays where I come in here and then go right to the training room and get an update. But I don't. It's nothing like the last one. You know, I don't foresee him being out for a long period of time. Will he be available on Wednesday? I'm not sure yet.
And then I know we talked the last few games about, you know, defending the three-pointer, and that's obviously something that, you know, Alabama's going to look to expose, I guess. What's kind of the message to your team? How important, you know, is it going to be to limit, you know, Alabama shooting from deep, knowing that, you know, they're going to throw up some shots there?
We've really struggled lately from that category. You know, we were really good in the fall. Certainly the level of competition makes a difference, a huge difference. But we're just not contesting at a high level. Our amount of uncontested threes is alarming. And, you know, guys make open shots for the most part across the country, and we're giving up too many of them. And it's not just the guy guarding the shooter. That's the guy that kind of takes the blame, at least publicly. But it happens long before that in the possession of why that person became open and was able to shoot a rhythm open three, which obviously we're trying to stay away from as much as possible. So we're going to work the next few days to try to really hone in on fixing that. Because it's become a problem. You know, we're getting beat soundly at the three-point line in terms of just old school data, just the number of points the other teams are getting compared to the number of points we're getting, and you can overcome that in different ways. But it seems to become a running theme with this year's team and league play is that, you know, we'll have 3, 4, 5 makes, and the other teams are having 10, 11, 12, and that's a lot to overcome.
On the flip side of that, you know, I looked, it may have changed, but I think it was the latest updated stats. Rams is shooting, I think, 41% from three, and it seemed like at times, and I know he's still getting back to game shape, but at times he's turned down some open looks. Is that something, the way he shot the other night, is that something you want to see more of, and him being able to have that green light?
Yeah, he's shooting a decent percentage over the course of the season. It's not at that clip in the SEC play. We're obviously struggling from three-point line in the SEC play. I think we're 24, 25%, which is, again, hard to overcome. And there's a lot of teams in our league that aren't shooting the ball from three. We're not the only ones. So, and they're finding ways to overcome it. But in terms of Rams, I mean, he's one of our better shooters, and we're encouraging him to be aggressive and to not turn down rhythm threes. But you know, it's not a joystick game. You know, we can't joystick the game and tell him when to shoot, when not to shoot. We have a lot of confidence when he shoots the ball. I know his teammates do as well.